Does cycling cause erectile dysfunction? There are over 48 million cyclists in the US alone. And let's get real, Peloton is super popular these days. And ever since Hippocrates' time, there's always been this speculation that cycling can lead to perineal trauma of the tissues around the pelvic floor and your penis, that may lead to erectile dysfunction. But is this really true? So does cycling cause erectile dysfunction? There's conflicting evidence on the relationship between erectile dysfunction and cycling. A lot of the studies out there lack validated outcome measures. They lack parameters around cycling. So for example, bicycle seat, terrain, intensity, etc. There's often no control groups that they're comparing their study to. And there's also small sample sizes. We can't say for certain that there's a definitive link between cycling and erectile dysfunction. In fact, there's two recent research studies that suggest otherwise. They did not find a direct link between cycling and erectile dysfunction. So let me break down these studies for you. And if you'd like to geek out on the research like me, I've included the links to the articles in the description below. So here's the breakdown of those two studies. The first study that I'm going to talk about is the 2020 meta-analysis and systematic review. And this study included 3,330 cyclists who were an average of 43 years old. And what the researchers found, that there's no greater risk for having erectile dysfunction if you're a cyclist versus a non-cyclist. So when we're scrutinizing the literature, we really have to critically think about some questions around whether or not we can truthfully conclude that bicycle riding causes erectile dysfunction. In a lot of these research studies, there is no indication of how much is too much riding for any one body or pelvic floor. Some research questions bicycle seats, while others say it matters. Some people say it doesn't. That's really unclear. There's also the speculation of maybe it's some blunt trauma that's happening to these tissues that are making a difference. We really don't know. And you have to consider other things like the terrain that you're riding, road versus mountain terrain versus a stationary bike. How much mileage are you doing? What about additional load from any packs? How about the amount of time spent in your saddle versus out of your saddle? What about your handlebar position? Padded bicycle shorts or not? All of these factors need to be considered as far as research is concerned to really make a sound correlation and link to cycling and erectile dysfunction. And that's really challenging to do in the research. So for all you bicycle cycling lovers out there, please don't worry about your penis. Cardiovascular exercise and getting on that bike and enjoying what you love is going to help you have optimal erections in the long run. So it's really unclear whether or not perineal trauma is linked to bicycle riding. We really can't say that bicycle riding is going to give you erectile dysfunction. A couple of things to consider when trying to figure out whether or not bicycle riding is a cause of your erectile dysfunction if you're a cyclist. If you just started cycling and this is something new, and if you reflect on the timeline and the history of events of when your symptoms started, if they're around the same time that you introduce something new into your life, like bicycle riding, then maybe that can be considered as far as let's take a look at the mechanical compression forces in and around the pelvic area, right? Because you do have nerves and blood vessels that live here, and they really want movement and space. However, there are other things that may contribute to erectile difficulties. So age being one of them, relationship status being another, medications being a third. So there's so many other factors that can play into the timeline of events that may lead to having erectile dysfunction. So we can't really put the blame on bicycle riding. In fact, bicycle riding is awesome cardiovascular exercise, which we know is super important for having optimal erections. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe and hit the like button below. This will help other guys in your situation also find these resources sooner than later. If you're a penis owner who's currently struggling with pelvic pain, you're not alone. Check out the Men's DIY Pelvic Pain Relief Program. The link is in the description below.